We are here. It is time for yet another episode of Regroup Phase. We have another jam-packed week of Star Wars Unlimited action here, giving to you all the previews that we've seen as preview season just bulldozes over us with all of the stuff that's coming out. We've got creator previews, we've got a stream preview, we've got article previews, and we have social media previews. There's lots of cool things coming down. 2 new leaders to showcase that showcase different mechanics, so that'll be fun to go through as we check out these previews, and just lots of fun stuff coming from the scum and villainy era of Star Wars in Shadows of the Galaxy. So without any further ado, let's get right into these previews. So, much like last week, FFG has spread out previews that we're getting across a couple different sources. We have the live stream, which gave us 1 preview. We have an article, which gave us 4 previews. We have 2 different leader previews that came through socials, a bunch of other social stuff, and then our content creator previews that we have that are available. So we're going to start off with a leader that ties into some of the content creator previews. We'll go over some of the middle stuff, and then if there's another theme, we'll get towards that leader and the other stuff at the end. So right off the bat, we have a really cool looking leader. This is from the FFG Twitter account. We have, or social media, whatever you want to say. We have Bossk hunting his prey. This is an aggression villainy leader, underworld bounty hunter. Action exhausts this leader, deal 1 damage to a unit with a bounty. You may give it +1/+0 for this phase. The epic action is 5 resources, flipping into a 4/6, number 10 out of 262 in SHD as a common. And then the unit side is Bossk hunting his prey, 5 cost, yada yada, blah blah blah. 4/6 underworld bounty hunter. When you collect a bounty, you may collect that bounty again. Use this ability only once each round. So Bossk is our bounty hunters matter aggression leader that's coming. And I don't know if it's been specifically stated yet, but given the information that we received last week and a couple of other things, I'm actually going to speculate that the aggression villainy rare leader is going to be Kylo Ren. You heard it here first. Moving along, the idea of Bossk is that as a bounty hunter, he plays the other bounty hunters that exist. We're going to see some of the aggression bounty hunters that are coming up. We've seen a little bit before, but you can also run cunning with him, which gives you a couple more bounty hunters in the form of Boba Fett and himself, Bossk. But what's really cool is that this front side leader ability serves 2 different purposes. You can use it to ping down a bounty target to try to move that off the board or move more damage onto it, so that way you can move it off the board in your next action. But if the target that has a bounty is one of your units, you can do a pseudo Grand Inquisitor thing. If your unit's already ready, you can exhaust Bossk to deal damage to that bounty. Your opponent does their thing, and then you can attack with an additional +1/+0 based upon what you're doing with that. So that's an interesting way to use the leader side. The unit side, though, this is where the spice comes with Bossk. Bossk is actually only 1 health short of the way that Boba Fett was in set 1 on cunning villainy, and that's probably going to make him a little bit more balanced because he's a little bit easier to take down as a result of that, not literally with the card. In general, it only takes a couple of things in order to be able to do that. But if you can flip Bossk and collect a bounty, and that's the bounty you want to claim double, you can double up on bounties. So double up on Evazan, you're restoring 24 resources, haha. But any of those draw cards become draw 2 cards. Any of the ones that do damage to a base or do damage to an opponent unit or heal a heal unit, heal a base, you can double up any of those depending on what you're specifically looking for. Bossk is going to be an incredibly fun leader to play. And honestly, is so far from some of the leaders we know, some of the leaders we don't know, and some of the things that we've seen so far, there are a ton of really cool leaders. Gideon's cool, Mando's cool, Bossk is cool, Bo-Katan is cool. We have a lot of Hunter's cool. One of the other leaders we're seeing here is also cool, but in a different way. We have a lot of really cool stuff that's coming out of Shadows of the Galaxy, and Bossk is probably going to be one of the ones that's up there in terms of how good he is in concert with the other cards that you utilize in his deck. Next up, we have 2 bounty hunter style cards coming to us by way of the Jodo cast. Link to their video in the description below. These are thematically together as a bounty hunter and his ship. So let's check out the bounty hunter. We have here Dengar, the Demolisher. 1 cost, aggression villainy ground unit, 2 power, 2 health, underworld bounty hunter. When you play an upgrade on a unit, you may deal 1 damage to that unit. This is an uncommon, number 133 out of 262 in SHD. Dengar comes out. You'll bring him out on round 1 or potentially round 2. and then you play a bounty to be able to ping one of your opponent's units. That gives you that option to be able to continue that train of knocking out your opponent's units and just doing cool stuff. Being a 1-cost 2/2, he's like a couple of other cards that exist in the game. He's a little bit weaker. He's not going to be able to do a ton of damage, but the idea is that you want to use him to push in the extra damage onto your opponent's bountied targets, so that way you can get those extra benefits, and eventually, when you flip with Bossk, get double benefits. But Dengar is really cool here, a unique character that you'll be able to drop on round 1, allowing you to at least get the unit tempo in your favor, so you can play more units. You play 2 1-cost units, and then on the next turn you can play a 2 and a 1, so on and so forth. Dengar's a really cool card, and I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of him on the table. The second Jodo cast preview is Dengar's ship. Not specifically a bounty hunter, but this is Punishing 1, Dengar's Jumpmaster. This is a 3-cost aggression villainy space unit. 3 power, 4 health, underworld vehicle transport. When an enemy unit is defeated, you may ready this unit. Use this ability only once each round. We saw this before with Bossk, and the idea is that you're probably going to be eliminating more than 1 unit per turn with these types of strategies. So they don't want you to be able to get multiple readies or multiple double bounties, but even still, at 3 costs, getting a 3/4 in space, this is your Millennium Falcon stats. And unfortunately, it doesn't come in ready, but if you can defeat a unit that has a bounty on it or an upgrade on it under any circumstance, you can ready the unit to be able to attack. So on the turn, if that you deploy it, if you're able to defeat one of your opponent's upgraded units, you can ready him an attack, or in the future, you can attack, defeat an upgraded unit, ready him again, so on and so forth. Really cool ship. In combination, this is going to give you a nice bit of space control. If you do end up running something like Aggression, Cunning, Villainy, you can run this with your 7th Fleet Defenders, with your Cartel Spacers, and then with your Fett's Fire Spray, which will be a little bit harder to use since Boba Fett won't be your leader. But if you can get that Boba Fett on the ground and the Fett's Fire Spray into space, that's going to be a pretty good combination of just running these bounty hunters and their ships. I'm hoping we do see a Hannonz Tooth for Bossk. I'm hoping that we see an IG 2000 for IG88 in this set, and then a unit IG88. And then we have seen the art for Zuckuss and Forlom. I hope we can see the Mist Hunter, which is their ship combination together. This is a really cool ship. I like it a lot. Great art. I collected all of these ships except for IG 2000 itself because I just missed purchasing that in X-Wing. So it's really cool to be able to get the opportunity to get these in Star Wars Unlimited and put them on the board. Next, we have 2 cards coming by way of Saga, linked to their video in the description below. We have a unit and we have an upgrade that's a bounty. So let's start with this unit. We have Krrsantan, Muscle for Hire. We called this one earlier when we saw that list from Tyler. And by the way, the 2 ones that I was absolutely sure on, I was absolutely right. Wrecker, boom, Krrsantan, Muscle for Hire. This is a 5-cost aggression villainy ground unit, 3 power, 7 health, Underworld Wookiee Bounty Hunter. When played, if an enemy unit has a bounty, you may ready this unit. On attack, choose a ground unit. You may deal 1 damage to it for each damage on this unit. This is an uncommon, number 139 out of 262 in SHD. They call him Krrsantan. His full name has been known as Black Krrsantan, or BK. I understand why they decided not to go with that for the specific card. Great card, however. 5 cost 3/7 is a pretty interesting stat line, but it combos with the things that you want to do in the Aggression Bounty Hunter deck anyway. You want to play bounties so you can ready this guy up, and then this is your not reverse grit, but it's grit shifted into a different direction. A lot of Wookiees we've seen so far have had grit or something that increases what they do based upon damage. When you have damage on Krrsantan as a unit, when you attack, you deal the damage that he has on him to an opposing ground unit. It doesn't even have to be the one that you're attacking, but if you've got 5 damage on Krrsantan and you need to push 3 damage into your opponent's base and clear a unit, you can attack, deal 5 damage to the ground unit. If that defeats it, and then be able to push that damage into the opponent's base with your 3 attack on Krrsantan. Very interesting that the combination of strategies here of being able to ready when there's a bounty on the board and also dealing damage based upon the number of damage that's on top of him. Really good with Grand Inquisitor. Grand Inquisitor, you can only use his ability once, but it puts 2 damage onto Krrsantan to ready him, so then he can end up dealing 2 damage to a ground unit that's on the board. I like these combination strategies for the bounty hunters. They're going to be some interesting things. Krrsantan's going to really want to start targeting, clearing out the opposing player's units to be able to stack that damage up onto him for a later turn, to be able to clear that, or at least present the threat of, I'm going to defeat something on your side of the board and also do something else. So Muscle for Hire is here. The second card from Saga is an upgrade. We have here Guild Target. This is a zero cost aggression only upgrade. Attached unit gains bounty. Deal 2 damage to a base. If this unit is unique, deal 3 damage instead. +0/+0, guild target bounty condition. Uncommon number 173 out of 262 and SHD. So this is like wanted. It's a zero cost. Just attach the bounty onto your opponent's units. You can utilize it to, if you do it before Chrysanthemum comes out, you can guild target, then Chrysanthemum comes in ready, and then potentially defeat the unit and be able to gain that extra damage onto the base. There's a couple of other different interesting things that you can do with this, but I think the really neat thing about this is that this helps you push damage onto your opponent's base in a way that they might not necessarily be prepared for. Your opponent is prepared to lose their units as they go, but they're not necessarily prepared to be having damage dealt to their base as a result of it. So this is probably an automatic 3 of, and any upgrades matter deck that's running aggression that cares about bounties. There's another bounty we're going to see later that does something similar in effect to this, but instead of dealing damage, it heals, and that's going to be also very interesting moving forward with the bounty strategy. They really pushed in a lot of neat bounty payoffs and bounty applicators that allow you to do a bunch of really cool things, at least in set 2 and also set 2's limited environment draft and sealed. So I imagine we're going to see a lot of this in any type of draft or sealed event that you play, your pre-releases. If this gets pulled, it's probably going to get played if you're playing aggression. And it is a fantastic card that's going to continue your goal of just beating your opponent's base down so you can win the game. Our next preview comes by way of the FFG social channels, Unlimited FFG on Twitter, Instagram, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. This is another bounty hunter, which is why it's with our bounty hunter groups. And this is a bounty hunter that a lot of people have been waiting for. We have here Jango Fett, renowned bounty hunter. He is a 4-cost aggression villainy ground unit, 3 power, 6 health, underworld bounty hunter. While attacking a unit with bounty, this unit gets +3/+0 and gains overwhelm. And when this unit attacks and defeats a unit, you draw a card. This is a rare, number 138 out of 262 in SHD. A lot of these bounty hunters are very good for the Bossk build, obviously, but several of them have been very good for the Grand Inquisitor build because a lot of them have 3 attack that can continuously be readied without worrying about losing their ability to ready them, much like Chrysanthemum and now this Jango Fett, because they get the bonuses based upon doing something rather than a static bonus. Similar to Fifth Brothers, gain raid based upon damage. These types of abilities give you the extra attack bonus while they're attacking and not while they're just on the board, which means they can be readied by things like aggression or keep fighting or Grand Inquisitor. So interestingly enough, Grand Inquisitor might actually shift into a just flat double aggression build, and Bossk might do the same thing. And while they're similar styles of gameplay, they may end up being very different deck builds as well. So Jango Fett, very fantastic character here. A lot of health for 4 cost, but the fact that he can effectively become a 6/6 if you're targeting something with a bounty, which in the bounty hunter deck, you should be running bounties. And then you also draw a card when he defeats a unit. There's a lot of really neat things that Jango Fett can utilize in order to be able to give you the advantage and defeat your opponent's units and just be a badass, which is what Jango Fett always has been. Our next card comes to us from the Instagram of Asmodee Germany. It's in English, so we don't have to worry about that. And it is an interesting card. We have here Chain Code Collector, a 4-cost cunning ground unit, 4 power, 2 health, underworld bounty hunter. This has ambush. On attack, if the defender has a bounty, it gets -4/-0 for this attack. This is a common, number 216 out of 262 in SHD. So the idea behind Chain Code Collector is that you play your 0 or 1 cost bounty on a target. And then for something that you want, you can collect with 4 damage, or you're going to be able to collect at some point in time, regardless of how much damage you deal to it. Then you drop your Chain Code Collector with the ambush to deal 4 damage to eliminate that bounty. That's going to be the goal, to eliminate the bounty. If that unit has 4 attack or less, it is not dealing damage back to the Chain Code Collector because this guy's like, hey, I know what I'm supposed to be going after. Pew, and then is able to get the reward and survive. That 2 health means it's not going to survive very long. It's going to be very easy to be cleared, but it has done his job. You play either of the 0 costs that we know of so far, Bounties, Wanted, or Guild Target, into something that has 4 health or less, chain code collector it, and now you're off to the races. And if you do this on a turn where you've got your Bossk flip, you get double the rewards. This is a fantastic card. This is probably going to be a chief 4 cost strategy with, if you're running aggression, cunning, or even just any of the cunning bounty hunter styles. There are a lot of bounty hunter cards that deal with that. We've seen Relentless Pursuit already. Chain Code Collector is a very interesting card. I imagine this is definitely going to be seen more in Limited than in Constructed, but there might be a space open for this card in a bounty hunter deck to be able to get that 1 copy or 2 copy of just snipe something off the board really quick and be able to collect that bounty without losing the card itself, which is pretty neat. Next, we have 4 previews from a StarWarsUnlimited.com article, which is linked down below. We have some interesting cards, and 1 card specifically that I'm very excited about in terms of the Upgrades Matters deck. But let's start with a unit. We have here Rose Tico, dedicated to the cause, a 4-cost Vigilant Heroism ground unit. 2 power, 6 health, resistance. Shielded, so it comes into play with a shield token. On attack, you may defeat a shield token on a friendly unit. If you do, give 2 experience tokens to that unit. This is an uncommon number 45, not 145, just 45, out of 262 in SHD. 4-cost unit that comes in with its own shield. If the shield stays on it and you're able to attack, you can give her 2 experience tokens by defeating the shield. There are other things that we know do generate shields. This is going to slot perfectly into Luke Skywalker as a deck because it does allow Luke Skywalker likes dropping shields. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. And Rose herself can start turning those shield tokens into experience tokens so long as she herself survives. She's got 6 health, so that's not going to be hard. She's not going to get takedown. She's not going to get force choked. You're going to have to actually put in some work to get this off the board. And because it does come into play with a shield, even more so in order to be able to do it. She does get vanquished. She does get waylaid. But other than that, other than those things that either exhaust or return to hand or just straight up defeat, regardless of health, Rose is going to stick on the board and at least for 1 turn be able to get that attack off and start putting experience tokens onto your units. That's a pretty interesting strategy. Next up, we have a Mandalorian unit in command. This is Sundari Peacekeeper, a 3-cost command heroism ground unit, 1 power, 5 health, Mandalorian Trooper, Raid 2, Restore 2. Uncommon, number 86 out of 262 in SHD. I believe that's 86. I should have used a better quality image. The Sundari Peacekeepers, if I remember correctly, are the Mandalorian guards that serve like the Senate guards do on Coruscant, protecting the royalty, the royal family, the people in power, so on and so forth. But this specific unit is pretty cool. 3 costs, it's got a 5 health body. It's not going to get taken down by too much except for obviously takedown or force choked. But your opponent has to decide if it's worth it for them to even utilize that, because right off the bat, it's only dealing 1 damage back when it's defending, and it's only dealing 3 damage on attacks. But it is restoring 2 each time it does attack. So you have to be careful about how you allow this to do. And then given that Mandalorians like upgrades, this one also likes upgrades if it can continue getting protection or additional restore or throw Sentinel on it. So that way at least it can take some extra damage before it gets off the board and protects your side of the board. But it's interesting to see if there will be anything else in command that supports Mandalorians. As part of last week's stream, we did get a confirmation that most of the Mandalorians are going to be in aggression and vigilance. We're seeing a lot of the Night Owls and the Death Watch in aggression, and we're seeing a lot of the followers of the Way in vigilance. But seeing this this Mandalorian in command gives me hope that we might see we might see Satine, but at least the Mandalorian High Ruling Council people from Clone Wars as command units, which would be pretty interesting. Next is a Healy Vigilance unit. We have here Moisture Farmer, a 1-cost Vigilance ground unit, 0 power, 4 health, Fringe, Restore 2, Common, number 55 out of 262, and SHD. This is draft fodder. This is, you need more Vigilance units or you're okay paying 3 for this, and it's restored to help keep you in the game until you can get your more powerful units onto the board or defeat your opponent's units. This is not really going to be doing much in terms of constructed. It's a neat card. It obviously has to exist because we do need cards that are good in draft. Maybe not necessarily would be good in constructed. Maybe somebody runs an all heal deck and this just busts the meta in half, especially considering the fact how difficult it is to deal with characters like Iden who are healing a bunch, or Luke who are keeping shields on your healing stuff. I know I did a fair amount of healing with my Han deck that I played the last week that I did my locals, but I don't see this having a huge impact in the meta until someone does something really degenerate with Restore. Our last card from the StarWarsUnlimited.com article is the upgrade I was talking about, and it should be very interesting going forward. We have here, we've seen the art of this, Top Target. This is a 1-cost Vigilance upgrade. Attached unit gains Bounty. Heal 4 damage from a unit or a base. If this unit was a unique, heal 6 damage instead. 0/0 +0/+0 top target bounty condition. This is an uncommon, number 71 out of 262 in SHD. This right here does what Vigilance does. It wants to heal, but the fact that you can heal from a unit or a base is actually very interesting. And if you use it on a non-unique unit, you get 4 damage back. But if you use it on a unique unit, you get 6 damage back. So a combination of playing top target on a target and then utilizing your Mandalorian effect with the pulse rifle to capture it. Once it's exhausted with the Mandalorian effect, you can heal 6 damage off of Mando himself or your base, or 4 if it's a non-unique, or some combination thereof of being able to heal what you need off of the unit that you're taking out temporarily, right? Capture is going to be super important for these bounty targets because it means that you don't have to worry necessarily about defeating them. You just can pull them off the board for a round or 2 until your opponent rescues them, but you still get the reward from the bounty itself. And because this is an upgrade, it does work with Mando's leader effect in order to be able to exhaust things, which allows you to just continue to control your opponent's board with upgrades that are replacing some of the events that you're playing. On Wednesday, FFG had their usual live stream talking about Star Wars Unlimited, specifically some gameplay. We'll talk a little bit later about that, but they did give us one preview, which is a very dangerous preview for the game going forward. We have Price on Your Head. 2-cost command only upgrade. Attached unit gains bounty, put the top card of your deck into play as a resource. +0/+0, price on your head, bounty condition, common, 125 out of 262, and SHD. Command likes ramp, so command ramps. That's what this does. However, this puts players in a very dangerous position in not being able to play very many units in their deck that have 2 health coming out on round 1 as a 1-cost or a 2-cost. And the reason why is that this card alone, along with a Super Laser Technician, and if you're playing your ECL, which most of the Boba players are, can put your Boba onto the board round 2. The idea is that your opponent plays a 2 health unit, you play Price on Your Head on that unit. We go to the next round, your opponent does something if they have the initiative, you do something if you have the initiative. But the idea is that you ECL with your Super Laser Technician into the unit that has Price on Your Head. You get the ECL back in play ready. Price on Your Head activates. You get the resource off the top of your deck exhausted, because that's what happens. This doesn't say put it into play as a resource ready, but you use Boba, his effect, to ready that resource. So long as that combination works, it should work since they should be simultaneous triggers, which then you choose the order. But if it doesn't, then I'll clarify at some point in time. Then you have 5 ready resources. You flip Boba Fett. You can either Steadfast Battalion, or you've already used your ECL, so you wouldn't be able to attack, but you can drop Steadfast Battalion or some other 5-cost on the board, or a Warming Barrage, the rest of your opponent's board, whatever might be remaining. But ultimately, that Boba Fett on the board round 2 is very, very dangerous. This was something that I was worried about with something like Relentless Pursuit, which would allow Boba to do some nasty shenanigans if it costs 2, but it only costs 3. But with Price on Your Head, none of that really matters anymore, because you can get back so many resources utilizing just 2 cards. All you need is 2 cards. Super Laser Technician and Price on Your Head in your hand, and your opponent has to play a unit that has a health of 2 or less. So if you're building decks in Shadows of the Galaxy, be prepared to suffer, because otherwise, Boba gonna crush you. And this card is yowza. Our next card comes to us by way of Asmodee USA, link in the description below. It's another Mandalorian, and I'm very happy to see her. This is the Armorer. Survival is Strength. 5-cost Vigilance Heroism ground units, 3 power, 5 health, Mandalorian. When played, give a shield token to each of up to 3 Mandalorian units. This is an uncommon, number 47 out of 262 in SHD. Key point I would like to point out here that somebody pointed out to me. This says give a shield token to each of up to 3 Mandalorian units. It does not say 3 other Mandalorian units. So you could put the shield on her and 2 of your other Mandalorian units. 3 total, up to 3. But given the way that this deck runs, that's likely going to be able to happen since you're going to be keeping your upgrades on your units and continuing to try to put that pressure on your opponent. The Armorer will also single-handedly activate upgrade strategies on your units if they require upgrades on those units, because a shield token is in fact a token upgrade. And what part of that is important? The upgrade part. I like this card a lot. 5 cost, 3/5. It is targetable by a couple of different things, but the fact that you can give it a shield token and then 2 of your other units tokens if you want, and running 3 of these, you could do this at any point in the game. She ends up giving you a lot of value, whereas for the Mandalorian strategies, which want upgrades, she gives you a lot of benefit based upon having those shields on your Mandalorian units. I like this. I'm excited to be able to do it. It's only an uncommon, which means it's not going to be hard to get. My Mando deck is shaping up to be really cool, at least in the low rarities, minus Mando himself, who the unit is a legendary. Our next card is a leader. It's art we've seen kind of pixelated before from the last episode, but we get the full card here, and that leader is Boba Fett Daimyo. This is a command heroism leader like we saw earlier, underworld keyword. When you play a unit that has 1 or more keywords, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, give a friendly unit +1/+0 for this phase. Epic action will you control 6 resources, you flip into a 4/7. The unit side is a 6 cost, yada yada, 4/7 underworld. Each other friendly unit that has 1 or more keywords gets +1/+0. This is a common, number 8 out of 262 in SHD. The Daimyo has arrived, and he is here to keep the peace. The reason why he's heroism is because his actions in Book of Boba Fett were more heroic than the villainous actions that he did as a bounty hunter during Empire Strikes Back and other stories in that era. This is a fairly interesting leader. I have read his abilities a couple of times, and there's a couple of different things that I've noted specifically as it pertains to Boba Fett himself. So on this leader ability, all you have to do is play a unit that has 1 or more keywords. Keywords are all the red titled abilities. So raid, restore, grit, ambush, sentinel, saboteur is another one that's available. You can exhaust Boba Fett when you play one of those characters, units, whatever you want to call them, and then you can give one of your units +1/+0. It doesn't have to be the unit that was deployed or you played, obviously, because that is only ambushers would be able to take advantage of this. It gives any one single unit on your side of the board +1/+0. And then on the flip side, we have the ability, much like IG-88's ability that gives all of your other friendly units raid 1. This one is, as long as your other units have 1 or more keywords, they get +1/+0. One thing I will say, before we go into the previews for some other units that mesh with this specific card, I actually would have preferred if this was, it gets +1/+0 for each keyword it has, because we've seen a lot of units that do have more than 1 keyword. So Mercenary Company is a great example. It's got ambush and it's got overwhelm. If that had been able to get +2 while this was on the board, that would be a fantastic thing. And I don't think that would get out of hand, because it does look like most of the units are trying to remain at 2 keywords or less. So unfortunately, that does mean that it's only a minor power buff. Again, much like IG-88, it's only the raid, just a single raid, as opposed to anything else. Or Jin's ability, where when you attack into an opposing unit, the opposing unit just gets -1/-0, rather than a combination thereof. But this is an interesting leader. It's a 6 cost 4/7. This is the appropriately costed Boba Fett as opposed to our other Boba Fett. And there's a couple of cards down the line that mesh with this Boba Fett, and one card that meshes with this Boba Fett and our normal Boba Fett, and that is terrifying. Our next previews come by way of Valle del Jedi. Apologize if I got that incorrect. Link to their video in the description below. We have 2 previews here, one that's associated with the previous leader and one that is not. So we're going to go over the one that is not first. This is Hylaban Enforcer, a 1 cost vigilance villainy ground unit, 1 power, 4 health, underworld, grit, bounty, draw a card. This is a common, number 27 out of 262 in SHD. So this is our vigilance villainy 1 cost bounty, draw a card unit that Tyler talked about in the last couple of weeks. So now all we need is the aggression version of this. But this goes very good in decks that want to have units that have a little bit of damage on them and other things. This is not as easy to defeat as some of the other ones, because it is a 1/4 with grit. It's basically the speeder bike, but it's a 1 cost. And this is going to plot right into decks that want to be able to do things like Grand Inquisitor Vigilance or Krennic as a whole, where you're getting extra bonuses based upon having some damage onto the units or being able to refresh the units to attack again and again and again. Imagine 2 of these first turn with Grand Inquisitor. That would be insane. The other aggression villainy version of this is probably also going to be very good in Grand Inquisitor, but we'll have to see exactly how its stats shake down. In terms of what this is capable of, Grits, fantastic. Bounty, I think the bounty on this specific card is actually less of a drawback than it is on some of the other ones that we've seen, because 4 health is not so easy to get rid of, and this can actually push through some extra damage based upon the grid itself, which is fantastic. I'm seeing this card here because these were the enforcers that were used by Crimson Dawn and Dryden Voss. I believe that Dryden Voss himself will probably be a Vigilance villainy character, if not potentially a Vigilance villainy leader, but I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be something that happens. But regardless, all of that, if he is a unit, plus this card, plus First Light, is going to fit right into the Krennic package without any issues whatsoever. That's pretty cool. The second preview from El Valle del Jedi is actually Boba support. And this is an interesting card, given what it does and what Boba can do. We have here Freetown Backup. 2 cost, Command Heroism ground units, 1 power, 4 health fringe, on attack, give another friendly unit +2/+2 for this phase. This also has Smuggle, which is another keyword that Boba Fett can give power to. 4 cost, Command Heroism, Smuggle cost. This is an uncommon, number 97 out of 262 in SHD. Freetown Backup is a very good first round drop to be able to just get that on the board and get ready to go, or potentially a backup unit that you need to smuggle later when you need that extra damage that you can put onto your units if it can be able to attack. The idea that this gets, when you deploy this, another one of your units does get +1/+0 if you exhaust your Boba Fett ability, or if you smuggle this in, same thing. But then on top of that, if you smuggle this in and your Boba's on its leader side, this is now a 2/4, which can potentially give something else +2/+2 that might also have a keyword, which means it could effectively be a 3/2 increase. It's an interesting little card. Early game, again, 4 health, very good for these early game units. It means they're not going to be cleared off the board. They're not going to be presenting too much of a threat because they are only 1 power, but we do know that Command likes to pump its units, so who knows what's going to come flying at you with the Freetown Backup and any other future support for Boba Fett's specific style of archetype. Our next 2 previews come from Hannonz over on YouTube. Link to their video in the description below. Please go check it out. We have 2 cards here. One that is a direct Boba command support, one that is just Boba support. So let's start with the less problematic card first. We have here Modded Cohort. I know everybody hates these characters. I love them. I think they're fantastic. 4 cost, Command Heroism ground unit, 2 power, 4 health, Underworld, Ambush, and Raid 2. This is a common, number 100 out of 262 in SHD. One thing I forgot to mention, even though it doesn't specifically mesh directly with Boba Fett build because it is a Mandalorian trooper, that Sundari Peacekeeper is also supported by Boba because it does have 2 keywords on it. But Modded Cohort here also has 2 keywords and is effectively green. It's Command Heroism's rogue operative, but Underworld, because while it lacks Saboteur, it can ambush the turn it comes out, and it's attacking for 4. So a 4 cost 4/4 that ambushes is actually pretty good. And if it survives, it can get even better as it gains the benefits from Boba's front side if another unit comes into play, or Boba's unit side that is able to just give that flat +1 because this does have at least 1 keyword. Again, this is where the benefit of, if it had +1 for each keyword, this would effectively be a 6/4 on attacks. I like this ability a lot. It's a good 4 cost 4 command. Command is kind of suffering in its builds of not having good quality 4 drops, and I think that's one of the things they attempted to fix in Shadows of the Galaxy. So we'll end up seeing exactly how this works out. I think that Boba Command Heroism is going to be an interesting deck that I think some people are going to try right off the bat, but without seeing some stronger cards, might not be something that ends up sticking, and he ends up being just a draft-based leader or a Twin Suns leader. That'd be interesting. The second preview from Hannonz is a card. We have here Boba Fett's armor. This is a 2 cost Cunning upgrade attached to a non-vehicle unit. If attached unit is Boba Fett and damage would be dealt to him, prevent 2 of that damage. +2 power, +2 health, Boba Fett's armor, item armor, rare, 224 out of 262 in SHD. We saw price on your head, meaning that Cunning, Command, Villainy, Boba Fett is going to be a very strong deck type because it can potentially get Boba Fett out on round 2. I believe opponents are going to be able to switch their strategies to make it so that that doesn't happen as often as the Boba Fett player would want. This single piece of this single upgrade, this piece of armor or full set of armor that Boba Fett can equip is absolutely, genuinely insane. I probably overuse that term a lot, but this is where it really actually means something. To be able to turn Boba Fett from a 4/7 to a 6/9 with 2 basically impenetrable damage shield, it boggles my mind. It genuinely boggles my mind. This on the Command Heroism Boba Fett, really cool. This on the Cunning Villainy Boba Fett, really not cool. And this might be one of those cards that I end up, I don't know. I don't even know. I have a lot of strong feelings about this, and I know most people don't really care. They just want to hear what the cards do and potential uses for them. Potential uses for this thing are basically unlimited. You could play this on your flip turn after you've eliminated one of your opponent's units, attack with the Boba Fett into your opponent's base, be able to get your resources back on your next action, put Boba Fett's armor on, and now he's a 6/9. And any type of other damage prevention you could put onto him, like a shield, just stacks in addition to being able to do Boba Fett's armor. A shield and this ability will activate at the same time, so you choose. If your opponent is dealing a big package of damage, you just remove the shield. But if your opponent's doing just 2 damage, you activate Boba's armor first, and then the shield doesn't see any damage and doesn't get plopped off. So Relentless Pursuit as a card, as an event, is also very strong in Boba Cunning. I don't understand the logic of somebody, a leader that is already very strong, getting even more tools that makes him even stronger. It's a cool looking card. This is great art. Again, if this was Command Heroism or if this was just Heroism, I think that this would be fine. But the fact that it's Cunning and it's not any other aspect, which means there's no penalty for Boba Villainy playing it. I understand you don't want to restrict certain leaders from not being able to play things that are theirs, but Boba Cunning already has the fire spray. He didn't need the armor. I don't understand the thought process of making this strong for a leader already that strong, but it is what it is. Our next couple of cards come by way of the Unlimited FFG social accounts. The 2 that are next are linked to their Instagram account. Links to those in the description below. We're going to start with a Cunning unit, then we're going to go to a Heroism unit. We have here Criminal Muscle. This is a 1-cost Cunning ground unit, 2 power, 1 health, underworld trait. When played, you may return a non-unique upgrade to its owner's hand. This is a common, number 209 out of 262 in SHD. Criminal Muscle is the Cunning access of upgrade, quote-unquote, removal. It does the same thing that Bamboozle does and sends it back to hand. It looks like, much like Cunning likes to exhaust things or send things back to your opponent's hand with stuff like Valle and Cunning, you have the ability with Criminal Justice to be able to move the non-unique upgrade back to your opponent's hand. It's only 1, but because it is a 1 cost, that's not terrible. This is effectively a confiscate it with a body, but you return it back to hand instead of defeating it. So returning a lightsaber, which costs 3, or something, Boba Fett's armor, which costs 2, or any of these other upgrades that we're seeing that are bounty targets, so that your opponent can't get the effect of this right off the bat, is really good. But the underrated likely use of this card is to get rid of shields off of your opponent's units. Because shields are token upgrades, they are non-unique, and they don't go back to your hand. They just evaporate once they leave the unit that they are attached to. So a Criminal Muscle can basically be a 1 damage shield popper without actually dealing the damage to remove a shield from an opponent's units. You can also remove an experience token, which is not terrible, but I think the most likely use of this is to get rid of a bounty off of one of your units, to get rid of a shield off of one of your opponent's units, or get rid of a devastating upgrade that your opponent has that costs a bunch that they anticipated they'd be able to get full value out of. This next one is a starter card, special rarity, quote unquote, and it is of a beloved character. We have here Greef Karga, Affable Commissioner, 2-cost heroism only ground unit, 2 power, 2 health, fringe official. When played, search the top 5 cards of your deck for an upgrade, reveal it, and draw it. Starter rarity, 245 out of 262 in SHD. This is obviously part of the Mandalorian side of the 2-player starter deck because it does fish out upgrades and it is heroism. This is an interesting card. It plays similar to Omega and Mon Mothma and Tarkin in that it grants you the ability to pull a card from the top of your deck and also be a body. I think Under normal circumstances, this would actually be a decent card, a decent round one play to be able to drop Greef Karga and then pick up the upgrade that you'll want to either attach to him or attach to another Mandalorian you'll play on another turn or another round, excuse me. But the big problem with Greef Karga is this 2 health. 2 health units are very, very precarious, very dangerous for a player against a Boba Fett deck. Now, not every matchup you're going to play is going to be up against Boba Fett command villainy, but a lot of them are going to be showing up even more so than they are now because there are more good cards being added to that deck. In terms of Greef being good on his own, 2-cost searcher, puts a 2/2 body on the board. It's not terrible. It's a decent card, especially if you're starting out with that Mandalorian starter deck, because you're going to be wanting to pull those upgrades. And with This Is the Way pulling Mandalorians and or upgrades, you can spend most of your upgrade searching on Greef Karga and most of your Mandalorian searching on This Is the Way. I think it's an interesting card. I actually very much like this art. You can definitely point out that that's Carl Weathers, but in terms of long-lasting competitive gameplay, I doubt we see Greef Karga very much, but it'll be interesting to see how he fares in the overall game of Star Wars Unlimited. And our last batch of previews comes by way of the garbage rollers themselves. 2 previews here, 1 relevant to the Mandalorian and 2 relevant to the identity of the garbage rollers. So let's go with the Mandalorian one first. Link in the description below for their preview. We have here Dr. Pershing experimenting with life. 2-cost vigilance villainy ground unit, 0 power, 5 health, Imperial. Action, exhaust this unit, deal 1 damage to a friendly unit. Draw a card. This is a rare, number 28 out of 262, an SHD. So this is the other side of Grogu as a unit in the game, whereas Grogu is a 2-cost 0/5 exhaust an opposing unit. Dr. Pershing wants to be able to deal damage to his own units to be able to draw cards and further their strategy. So it's an interesting card in the deck. I think this is going to be very interesting in Krennic because it does turn on that +1/+0 because you are damaging your own unit and you're able to damage your own unit to draw a card. This is actually what Palpatine really wanted as an upgrade, or excuse me, as a leader ability and as a unit ability, but instead he gets the kill your own units to draw cards and deal 1 damage, whereas Pershing is a lower cost, lower impact way of being able to draw those same cards. And while you're not dealing damage to your opponent's units, you're also not destroying your own board presence by killing your own units. So this will be an interesting unit to see on the board. I'm not sure exactly which decks are going, besides Krennic, are going to want to be putting this into their deck. Maybe something that is going, maybe the potential Dryden Voss vigilance villainy leader, if that's what's coming in the set, will want to do that to gain more access to things like grit damage through First Light or whatever Voss might do as a leader himself. Very interesting unit here, and I'm excited to see what people can do with it going forward. Our next card is a garbage roller special. We have here the Frontier Trader, a 3-cost cunning only ground unit, 2 power, 2 health, Fringe, Jawa. When played, you may return a resource you control to its owner's hand. If you do, you may put the top card of your deck into play as a resource. This is a common, number 214 out of 262 in SHD. Frontier Trader is here to cash in on a resource from the top of your deck to be able to pull one of your early resourced cards back to your hand that doesn't have smuggle, because you want your smuggled cards to remain in your resource row. So you have an opportunity of getting something cool off the top of your deck into your resource row that may or may not have smuggle. If you use other cards to be able to look at the top card of your deck, that would actually be very helpful. Thrawn, cough, cough. But beyond that, to be able to get something that you played early that was strong into your hand utilizing this thing that also leaves a 2/2 body on the board is not terrible. This isn't going to be coming out early enough that you're threatening having Boba Fett just destroy you, but it is one of those things that's going to help you set up for the next round in order to be able to just do something significant by taking a resource card back to your hand. It's a very neat card. I like it a lot. I think it's going to be cool. I like this trend of giving the garbage rollers Jawas because it's funny and it's cool, and I hope that continues because it's funny and it's cool. On Wednesday, May 8th, FFG went live with their typical FFG Live featuring Star Wars Limited content. We had 5 people on the stream showcasing their decks and doing some gameplay on this stream, which was really cool. You should definitely go check it out because I'm not going to be talking too much about the gameplay itself as we go through. They did give us one preview. They did talk a little bit about the article that went up, but ultimately this was just FFG people showing off their cool decks and playing games, which again, you should definitely check it out. Link to that in the description below. But our 5 people that were on the stream, starting off with Xander Tabler, the community engagement specialist and host of these lovely live streams. We have Kevin Van Sloon, who is a digital engineer. We have Alicia Gensch, I apologize if I pronounced your name wrong, who is the marketing manager. We have Eric Stanton, who is a producer, and Jason Walden, who is a senior producer. All of them brought fun, cool decks to play, and the games were awesome. You should go check those games out, like I said. That was pretty much it for the stream itself. It was mostly gameplay. They played for about an hour and a half. Yeah, played for about an hour and a half. It was super fun. And that's all we have for this week. Tons of previews. We got that article, which is linked in the description below, about the design insights for Shadows of the Galaxy. A couple of different things showcased there with those previews, and just a ton of stuff to go over. This is the previews that we're going to be expecting for the lifetime of the game, where instead of spending 9 months hyping up a game, we've got 3 months to hype up a game. And that's an interesting way of being able to do this. Sprinkle a couple of previews at the beginning of before the preview season starts, and then just hammer home the rest of the set. So expect these videos to be going on longer each week as we are covering previews, because there is a ton of stuff to do. I imagine it won't be a month before set release that we'll know everything, but probably about 2, maybe 3 weeks at most. So in between those weeks, we'll try to get the aspect review videos out much quicker than we did for Spark of Rebellion, which is why those videos did not do as well. And I completely understand that. But as it stands, that's it. We're done. Hope you enjoyed the previews. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did showcasing it to you. Remember to like and comment on this video. Let me know what your favorite preview was. Share it with your friends. We've got playlists for Star Wars Unlimited, Regroup Phase, Action Phase, and a soon-to-be-named 4th playlist for Star Wars Unlimited. Subscribe to this Star Wars Unlimited channel for all of your Star Wars Unlimited needs. I do have ways to support me with the memberships and super thanks on these videos. And that's pretty much it. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate all of y'all, and we will see you in the stars.